The summer sun beat down on the bustling construction site in downtown Phoenix, where steel beams rose like the bones of a giant creature against the cloudless sky. Maya Chen stood at the corner of the site, her hard hat slightly askew, clipboard in hand, checking measurements for the new commercial complex that would reshape the city's skyline. AT23, Maya had inherited her mother's sharp mind and her father's determination. She'd spent her college summers working construction jobs, learning the trade from the ground up despite her family's wealth. Today, she was here as a junior site inspector, double-checking the work before the afternoon shift change. "Hey! You there?" A voice boomed across the construction yard. Maya turned to see a broad-shouldered man in a supervisor's vest striding toward her, his face twisted with suspicion. Rick Dawson, the site foreman, was known for running a tight ship, some said too tight. His reputation for being aggressive with workers had reached even Maya's ears, though she'd never interacted with him directly. "Can I help you?" Maya asked politely, lowering her clipboard. "What do you think you're doing on this site?" Dawson's eyes narrowed. "You got authorization to be here." Maya reached for her badge. "I'm with the inspection team." "Maya Chen." "I was sent by—" "I don't care what you say you are," Dawson interrupted, his voice rising. "I've been watching you for 10 minutes, poking around, taking notes. You look more like industrial espionage than any inspector I've seen." A knot of workers had begun to gather, sensing drama. Maya felt her face flush. "Sir, I have my credentials right here. If you'd just let me show you, save it." Dawson pulled out his radio. "Security, we've got an unauthorized person on site. Sector C, bring backup." Maya's heart pounded. This was absurd. "Mr. Dawson, I really think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm supposed to be here. My name is on today's clearance list." "Your name," Dawson said with a sneer, "is going to be on a police report for trespassing. Maybe even theft, depending on what you've been documenting." "Theft? I haven't taken anything." "Then why were you photographing our equipment specifications?" He gestured to her phone, which had been on her clipboard. "That's proprietary information. I was documenting standard safety compliance." Maya protested, her voice cracking despite her efforts to stay calm. "It's literally my job." 2 security guards arrived, looking uncertain. Behind them, Maya spotted a few familiar faces from the crew, workers she'd chatted with during her rounds. They looked uncomfortable, but no one spoke up. Dawson addressed the guards. "Escort her off the property. I'm calling the cops to file a formal report. Can't be too careful these days." "This is insane," Maya said, her voice shaking now with anger and humiliation. "I have every right to be here. My supervisor, James Rodriguez, sent me specifically to review the structural integrity reports. Call him." "I'm not calling anyone except the authorities," Dawson replied coldly. "You college kids think you can walk onto a construction site with a fake badge and a story. Not on my watch." One of the security guards, an older man named Pete, shifted uncomfortably. "Boss, maybe we should verify. Are you questioning my judgment, Pete?" Dawson wheeled on him. "Because I can find someone else to wear that uniform if you can't follow simple instructions." Pete fell silent, and Maya felt her last hope slip away. The guards moved to flank her, not touching her but making it clear she was meant to come with them. "I want to call my supervisor," Maya said firmly. "I have that right." "You'll get your phone call at the station," Dawson replied. "After you've been officially processed for trespassing on private property." The walk across the construction site felt like a mile. Workers stopped to stare. Some whispered. Maya held her head high, but inside she was screaming. She'd done nothing wrong. She belonged here. And yet, here she was, being perp-walked like a criminal, because one man had decided she looked suspicious. At the site entrance, 2 Phoenix police officers were already waiting. Dawson must have called them before he even confronted her. The realization made Maya's stomach turn. This had been predetermined. He'd made up his mind about her before exchanging a single word. "Officers, thank you for the quick response," Dawson said, his tone shifting to professional courtesy. "This young woman was found taking unauthorized photographs of proprietary equipment and refused to leave when asked. I have witnesses." One of the officers, a woman with keen eyes and graying hair at her temples, looked at Maya. Is this true?" "No, officer, it's not," Maya said, keeping her voice steady despite the tremor she felt. "I'm a site inspector. I was sent here by my supervisor to conduct a routine safety and structural review. I have credentials, I have authorization, and I have documentation of my assignment." The second officer, younger and clearly deferring to his partner, glanced at Dawson. "Did you check her credentials, sir?" "She had nothing legitimate on her," Dawson said smoothly. "I've been in this business 20 years. I know the difference between a real inspector and someone pretending to be one." The female officer looked back at Maya. May I see your identification, and any work authorization you have? Maya handed over her driver's license, her company badge, and pulled up the email on her phone showing her assignment for the day. The officer examined each carefully. This looks legitimate to me, she said slowly. This badge is from Titan Construction Services. That's a major firm. Anyone can fake a badge, Dawson interjected. And emails can be fabricated. I'm telling you, she doesn't belong here. The younger officer spoke up. We could call Titan Construction and verify, or you could do your job and remove a trespasser from private property, Dawson said, his voice hardening. I'm the site foreman. I determine who has access to this location. And I'm telling you she doesn't. The female officer looked troubled, but Maya could see her resolve shifting. In a dispute between a young woman and an established foreman on his own site, the law would side with property rights. Even if she was telling the truth, proving it here and now would be nearly impossible without her supervisor, who she knew was in meetings until late afternoon. I'm going to have to ask you to come with us, the officer said quietly. We can sort this out at the station. You're arresting me. Maya felt the words like a punch to the chest. For doing my job. We're detaining you until we can verify your story, the officer corrected. If everything checks out, you'll be released immediately. And if I call my supervisor right now? We'll make contact with the appropriate parties at the station, the officer said, her tone apologetic, but firm. Maya felt tears prick her eyes, but refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give Dawson the satisfaction. As the officers guided her toward their patrol car, she looked back at the foreman. He stood with his arms crossed, a satisfied smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You're making a huge mistake, Maya said, her voice carrying across the site entrance. The only mistake, Dawson called back, was you thinking you could fool me. The holding room at the Phoenix Police Department was smaller than Maya had imagined, with concrete walls painted a sickly beige and a metal table bolted to the floor. She sat with her hands folded, trying to project calm, while her mind raced through the implications of what had just happened. The female officer who'd brought her in, Officer Martinez, according to her nameplate, returned with a paper cup of water. Your supervisor has been contacted. He's on his way. Thank you, Maya said quietly. How long will this take? Depends on verification. Could be an hour, could be more. Martinez sat across from her. For what it's worth, your story checks out. Your company confirms you were assigned to that site today. Relief flooded through Maya, followed quickly by anger. Then why am I still here? Because the foreman maintains you were trespassing and taking unauthorized photographs. Until we reconcile those claims with your company's statement, we have to complete the investigation. Martinez paused. Can I ask you something off the record? Maya nodded. Did anything happen between you and Mr. Dawson before today? Any prior conflict? I've never met him before in my life, Maya said. I showed up to do my job, and he decided I didn't belong there. That's it. Martinez studied her for a long moment. Has this happened to you before? Someone assuming you don't belong somewhere. The question hung in the air, loaded with meaning. Maya thought about the college classrooms where professors had assumed she was in the wrong lecture hall. The professional conferences where people asked if she was someone's assistant. The countless moments of having to prove herself before she was allowed to simply exist in a space. Yes, Maya said simply. More times than I can count. Martinez nodded slowly, her expression hardening with what looked like anger, but not at Maya. I thought so. Stay here. I'm going to make another call. She left, and Maya was alone with her thoughts. She wondered if Dawson had any idea who her family was. Probably not, or surely he would have thought twice. Her mother, Jennifer Chen, was the CEO of Titan Construction Services, the very company Dawson worked for, though several layers of corporate hierarchy separated them. Maya had deliberately kept a low profile, using her father's less recognizable surname on most of her work documents to avoid nepotism accusations. Now she wondered if that discretion had cost her. Would Dawson have treated her this way if he'd known? Or would it have made no difference? The door opened, and James Rodriguez burst in, his usually calm demeanor shattered by visible fury. Maya. Are you all right? She stood. I'm fine, James. Just humiliated and angry. This is unacceptable, Rodriguez said, turning to Officer Martinez who'd followed him in. This young woman is one of our most promising junior inspectors. She had full authorization to be on that site. I sent her there myself. We understand that now, sir, Martinez said. She's free to go. However, the foreman is still insisting he was within his rights to have her removed. Rodriguez's jaw tightened. He wasn't. And there will be consequences. As they walked out of the station, Maya felt the afternoon sun on her face, but it brought no warmth. The humiliation of the past few hours sat heavy on her shoulders. "I'm filing a formal complaint," Rodriguez said as they reached his truck. This was discrimination, pure and simple. "It won't matter," Maya said quietly. "His word against mine. He'll say he had legitimate security concerns." "It does matter," Rodriguez insisted. "And it's not just your word. I'm willing to bet he has a history of this kind of behavior. Men like Dawson don't just wake up one day and decide to abuse their authority." Maya looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I've heard rumors. Workers who were disciplined too harshly. People fired for minor infractions. Most of them were young, most of them were women or minorities. Nothing anyone could prove, but patterns exist for a reason." Rodriguez started the truck. "Your mother needs to know about this." "No," Maya said quickly. "Please don't tell her. I don't want her fighting my battles." Rodriguez gave her a long look. "Maya, this isn't about you being unable to fight your own battles. This is about a company employee abusing his power and creating a hostile work environment. Your mother, as CEO, has a right and responsibility to know. She'll make a huge deal out of it. She should make a huge deal out of it." Rodriguez's voice rose. "You were arrested for doing your job. If that happened to any employee, I'd report it. You're not getting special treatment by me telling her. You're getting the same treatment anyone should get when they're wronged by a supervisor." Maya slumped in her seat. "Fine. But let me tell her, at least. In my own way." Rodriguez nodded. "All right. But Maya, don't minimize what happened today. What Dawson did was wrong. And whether or not you want your mother's help, you deserve justice." Jennifer Chen stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, looking out over the Phoenix skyline. Behind her, Maya sat in one of the leather chairs, having just finished recounting the day's events. She tried to keep her voice steady, factual, unemotional. She wasn't sure she'd succeeded. When she finished, silence filled the office. Her mother didn't turn around for a long moment. "Tell me again," Jennifer said finally, her voice dangerously quiet, "what reason he gave for having you removed." "He said I looked suspicious. That I didn't look like an inspector. That I was taking unauthorized photos." Maya swallowed hard. "He decided I didn't belong there." Jennifer turned, and Maya saw something in her mother's eyes she'd rarely seen: cold, controlled rage. "Did he ever actually check your credentials? Look at your badge, verify your assignment?" "No. He refused to. He said anyone could fake a badge. And the police. They verified everything eventually, but by then I'd already been detained for 2 hours." Jennifer crossed to her desk and picked up her phone. "Cancel all my meetings for tomorrow. And get me Rick Dawson's complete personnel file. I want every evaluation, every complaint, every disciplinary action, if any exist, on my desk within the hour." She hung up and looked at Maya. "I should have seen this coming. Dawson has been a problem for years, but he's good at covering his tracks. He stays just inside the lines, makes his targets people who won't push back hard enough to matter." "Mom, I don't want you to. This isn't about you, Maya," Jennifer interrupted gently. "I mean, it is. You're my daughter and someone humiliated and wronged you, and that makes me want to destroy him on a personal level. But this is also about every other young person, every woman, every person of color who's worked under Dawson and faced his prejudice and abuse of power. You're the daughter of the CEO, so you have protection and recourse. How many others didn't?" Maya felt tears finally break free. "I just wanted to do my job. I was good at it, Mom. I had a plan for the inspection, I knew what I was looking for, and I was being professional and thorough." Jennifer came around the desk and pulled Maya into a hug. "I know, sweetheart. I know. And you will get to do your job. But first, we're going to make sure Dawson never gets to treat anyone this way again." The conference room on the 42nd floor was intimidating by design, all glass and chrome, with a view that made visitors feel small against the enormity of the city below. Rick Dawson had been summoned there for an urgent meeting with senior leadership, according to the terse email he'd received at 6 a.m. He'd arrived 10 minutes early, determined to make a good impression. Meetings with corporate leadership usually meant recognition or promotion. Maybe they'd heard about his quick response to that security threat yesterday, the girl who'd been snooping around the site. He'd probably saved the company from industrial espionage. The door opened and Dawson stood, smoothing his shirt. But his confident smile faltered when he saw who entered. Jennifer Chen walked in first, her expression unreadable. Behind her were 2 people Dawson recognized, the VP of Operations and the Director of Human Resources. And behind them, looking composed but distant, was the girl from yesterday. Dawson's mind raced. The girl was here. With the CEO. "Mr. Dawson," Jennifer said, her voice professional but cold. "Please, sit down." He sat, suddenly aware of his pulse pounding in his ears. Mrs. Chen, I didn't realize, I wasn't expecting, I'm sure you weren't. Jennifer took her seat at the head of the table. Do you know who this is? She gestured to Maya, who sat 2 chairs away, her expression carefully neutral. Dawson squinted. That's the girl who was trespassing on the construction site yesterday. I had her removed for security reasons. Try again, Jennifer said. Dawson looked closer. There was something familiar about her features, now that he was paying attention. The shape of her eyes, the line of her jaw. I don't understand. This is Maya Chen, Jennifer said, each word precise as a scalpel. My daughter. And a junior site inspector for this company, who was conducting an authorized, routine safety inspection at your site yesterday when you had her arrested. The blood drained from Dawson's face. I didn't. She didn't say she was the CEO's daughter, because she shouldn't have to, Jennifer interrupted. Any employee conducting authorized work on our site should be treated with basic professional respect. But that's clearly not how you operate, is it, Mr. Dawson? Mrs. Chen, I can explain, please do. Jennifer leaned back in her chair. Explain to me why you refused to check my daughter's credentials. Why you immediately assumed she was lying. Why you had her arrested instead of taking 30 seconds to verify her authorization. Dawson's mouth opened and closed. It was a security concern. She looked suspicious. Suspicious how? Jennifer's voice was razor-sharp now. Be specific. She was young, and she was taking photos, and I'd never seen her before. She's a junior inspector. She's supposed to be young. She's supposed to document site conditions. And you haven't seen her before because she works across multiple sites, not just yours. Jennifer leaned forward. So let me ask you again, what specifically made her look suspicious to you? The silence stretched. Dawson knew anything he said now would sound like the excuse it was. He'd profiled her, assumed a young Asian woman couldn't possibly be a legitimate inspector, couldn't possibly belong on his construction site. And now he was sitting across from her mother, the CEO of the entire company, paying for that assumption. I made a mistake, he finally said, his voice small. I should have verified her credentials. You made several mistakes, the HR director spoke up, opening a folder. We've reviewed your personnel file, Mr. Dawson. This isn't the first time you've been accused of discrimination or excessive use of authority. In the past 3 years, we've had 6 formal complaints filed against you. 6. All of them from employees or contractors who were women or people of color. All of them involving you questioning their qualifications, their right to be on site, or their competence. Dawson felt his world tilting. Those were all resolved. I was cleared, you were given the benefit of the doubt, Jennifer corrected. Because you're an experienced foreman with a long tenure, and because in each case, it was your word against someone with less seniority. But patterns don't lie, Mr. Dawson. And yesterday, you didn't just target some contractor I've never heard of. You targeted my daughter. Which means I'm paying attention now. And when I pay attention, I see all of it. Maya spoke for the first time, her voice calm and steady. Mr. Dawson, I want you to know something. I didn't ask my mother to intervene. I didn't want to use my connection to her to fight this battle. But she's right, this isn't about me. It's about every person you've prejudged, every worker you've humiliated, every talented professional you've chased away from our company, because they didn't fit your narrow idea of what belongs on a construction site. I'm sorry, Dawson said, and he meant it, though he knew the apology was far too late. I'm truly sorry. I let my assumptions cloud my judgment. Your assumptions, Jennifer said, are going to cost you your job. Effective immediately, you're terminated for cause. Your behavior yesterday constituted harassment, false accusation, and abuse of authority. Combined with your pattern of similar behavior, we have more than sufficient grounds for dismissal. Dawson felt the room spin. 20 years with the company. Gone. Please, Mrs. Chen. I have a family. I have a mortgage. Let me make this right. You should have thought about that before you had my daughter arrested, Jennifer said coldly. Then her expression softened slightly. But I'm not completely without mercy. Your termination letter will cite policy violations, not discrimination. You'll receive 2 weeks severance, which is more than you deserve. And I won't personally ensure you're blacklisted in the industry, though I suspect your reputation will follow you on its own. She stood, and everyone else at the table followed suit. Goodbye, Mr. Dawson. I suggest you use your newfound free time to examine why you felt entitled to treat people the way you did. As the HR director escorted a stunned Dawson from the room, Jennifer turned to Maya. Are you okay? Maya nodded slowly. I am. I think I am. Do you feel like justice was served? I don't know, Maya admitted. He lost his job, which is significant. But he'll probably just take those same attitudes to his next position. Will he actually change? Jennifer sighed. Maybe not. But at least at our company, he won't be able to hurt anyone else. And Maya? She waited until her daughter met her eyes. You didn't do anything wrong yesterday. You didn't deserve what happened. And the fact that he targeted you doesn't mean you're weak, or that you failed somehow. It means he's a bully and a bigot, and those are his failings, not yours. Maya felt the tightness in her chest finally ease. Thanks, Mom. Now, Jennifer said, her tone shifting to something lighter, I believe you have a site inspection to complete. James tells me the structural integrity reports still need your review. Maya blinked. You want me to go back to that site? I want you to finish your job, Jennifer said firmly. We've already sent word to the crew that you're an authorized inspector, and that anyone who questions your presence will answer to me personally. Plus, I'm assigning you a senior inspector as backup, not because you need supervision, but because you shouldn't have to deal with any residual attitudes alone. What about Dawson's replacement? I'm personally interviewing candidates. This time, we're going to make sure we hire someone who values professionalism and respect over intimidation and prejudice. Jennifer smiled slightly. Think you can handle going back? Maya thought about it. The idea of returning to that site made her stomach clench. But she'd worked hard to get where she was. She'd earned her position through competence and dedication. She wasn't going to let one bigoted foreman take that away from her. Yeah, she said finally. I can handle it. 3 weeks later, Maya stood at the same corner of the construction site, where she'd been confronted by Dawson. This time, workers greeted her as she passed. The new foreman, a woman named Sarah Martinez with 30 years of experience and a reputation for fairness, had made clear from day one that every authorized person on site would be treated with respect. Maya completed her inspection, noting several areas where safety improvements could be made and documenting the overall progress of the structural work. When she finished, Sarah approached her. Good work today, Sarah said. Your eye for detail is impressive. Thank you, Maya replied, genuinely pleased by the compliment. I heard about what happened with my predecessor, Sarah continued. I want you to know that won't happen under my watch. I judge people by their work, not by what they look like or how old they are. Maya smiled. I appreciate that. As she walked to her car, Maya reflected on the past few weeks. The arrest had been traumatic, the humiliation had stung, and even now she sometimes felt the urge to prove herself extra hard, to work twice as carefully to forestall any criticism. But she was still here. Still doing the job she loved. Still building the career she dreamed of. Dawson was gone, but the attitudes he'd represented weren't. There would be other people who looked at her and saw someone who didn't belong. Other moments where she'd have to prove herself against assumptions and prejudice. That was the reality of her world, but she also knew now that she didn't have to face it alone. That speaking up mattered. That holding people accountable for their actions could create real change, even if it was just within one company, on one construction site, for one group of workers who deserved better. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Proud of you, sweetheart, Maya typed back, thanks Mom. See you at dinner. She drove away from the construction site, watching it shrink in her rearview mirror. Tomorrow she'd be back, and the day after, and the day after that. The work would continue. The city would rise higher. And Maya Chen would be there, building it, one inspection at a time. Behind her, the steel beams reached toward the sky, unfinished but promising, just like her career, just like her future. There would be challenges ahead. There would be more Rick Dawsons in different forms. But there would also be Sarah Martinez's. There would be James Rodriguez's. There would be people who saw her for who she was and what she could do, and most importantly, there would be her, Maya Chen, site inspector, daughter, professional, survivor. Standing her ground. Doing her job. Refusing to let anyone tell her she didn't belong. The construction site faded from view as she merged into traffic, but its lessons traveled with her. Justice wasn't always immediate, and change wasn't always complete. But every person who stood up, who spoke out, who refused to accept prejudice as the price of doing business, they all added up to something bigger. They added up to progress.